Algebra 1, Lesson 60. This is finding special products of binomials. So we're going to do some exploration and see what answers we get and see if we can find a pattern. So the first example is 2t plus 2 squared. So another way to write this is 2t plus 2 times 2t plus 2. And you can use FOIL method to solve. 2t times 2t is 4t squared. And then your outside terms, 2t times 2 is 4t. Your inside terms, look, it's the same number. And then your outside terms, or your last terms, I'm sorry. So you get plus 4. Add your like terms together, you get 4t squared. 4t plus 4t is 8t plus 4. So that's our answer. Let's see if we can find any patterns. 4y plus 3 squared. Another way that you could do this is square the first term, 4y, and square the last term, 3. And then I'll tell you how to do the next one. Okay, so if we were to square this, we get 16y squared. And then I'll help you with the last one. But first I'm going to show you. What happened here was the 2t and the 4, if we multiplied these together, we got 4t, and then you double it. Okay, so we could do that here. If we square the first term, we get 16y squared. If we square the last term, 3 times 3 is 9. To figure out what our middle term is, since this is positive, we don't have to worry too much about it. 4 times 3 is 12. If you double that, you're going to get 24. And we just have y here. This is going to be our answer, but I'll prove it to you. I'll show you. If you were to rewrite this as 4y, I'm just going to write up here, 4y plus 3. And first two terms, you get 16y squared. We're using FOIL method. Outside terms, 4y times 3 is 12y. Inside terms, 3 times 4y is 12y. And last two terms, 9. Add your like terms together, 12y and 12y, you get 24y. The 16y squared stays the same, and so does the 9. So an easy way to do that is just square your first term, square your last term, and to find the middle term right here, you multiply the coefficients and then double it. So 4 times 3 and then double that is going to be 24. Now let's look at a plus b squared. If you were to rewrite it, a plus b times a plus b. I know what this is going to be. A squared and b squared, and then we have to combine these two terms here. Well, there's a 1 and there's a 1 here. It's just going to be 1. Our coefficient is 1, and our variables are going to be ab is going to be our middle term. I'll show you using FOIL. A times a is a squared. A times b, you get ab. B times a, you always write your coefficients in alphabetical order, so it's going to be ab. B times b, b squared. So we have a squared. Our middle terms are like terms. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then our last term, b squared. So there's a pattern here. If you square your first term and your last term, just combine these two together right there. So 2 times 2 is 4. You're going to add that 2 times. Okay? 4 times 3 is 12y. You're going to add 12y 2 times to get 24y. A times b is ab. You're going to add ab 2 times to get your middle term. Okay, same thing down here, but now we have subtraction. So it's going to be slightly different just because we have a different sign. So we have t minus 5 times t minus 5. First terms, t squared. Outside terms, negative 5t. Inside term, it's the same, negative 5t. Last terms, positive 25. Add your like terms together, you get t squared minus 10t plus 25. So same thing as up here. up here, everything was positive. Up here, this sign right here is negative because we had a negative here. Remember, you square your first term and you square your last term. Then to find the middle term, because it's going to be 3 terms, a trinomial, you multiply these together, 1 and -5, and you double it. So -5 plus -5, and you get -10. Here, only thing different is now it's 2 terms with a minus sign, it's squared, but we have a coefficient here. Wonder if any of you can tell me what the answer is going to be. We square our first term, square our last term, and to get the middle term, multiply 2 and -3 and double it. So who thinks they know what the middle term is going to be? Let's see if we can figure it out. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times -3 is -6x. -3 times 2x is -6x. -3 times -3 is +9. Add your like terms. This is going to be your middle term. We have 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. So we're getting, when you square a binomial, a polynomial with 2 terms, you're going to get a trinomial. You're going to get 3 terms. The difference between these is these have a plus sign between the 2 terms. These have a minus sign between the 2 terms. It's the only difference. So our answer overall, when there's a plus sign between the 2 terms, everything's going to be positive. When there's a negative sign between the 2 terms, the middle term is going to be negative. Now here we have a minus b squared. A squared minus ab plus b squared. So your answer is a squared. Combine these 2 terms, minus 2ab plus b squared. These rules right here, a plus b squared, a minus b squared, these are rules for polynomials. I'm going to skip the next questions, but I want to go down here and show you there's a pattern. When you see a plus b squared, they're asking you to square your binomial. This is the form it's going to take. The first term for your answer, you square the first term. For the third number, you square the second term. And for the middle number, you multiply these together and then double it. So 1 times 1 is 1, and then a times b is ab. You're going to have 2 ab's right there. If it's a minus sign in the middle, you're going to do, again, square the first term, square the last term, negative b. If you square that, it's going to be positive b squared. To find this middle term right here, multiply a and negative b together. 1 times -1 is -1 ab, and then double it. So this right here, these are some really great patterns. If you can figure out those patterns, it's going to save you a lot of time. You don't have to do all the steps here. You can go from here straight to the answer. One other one, and I will do an example of it, a plus b times a minus b. In this case, they're not squaring the same polynomial. They're taking the same polynomial, but one has a positive sign, one has a negative sign. And then your answer is going to be your first term squared, your last term squared, but it's going to be a negative instead of a positive. So for example, x plus 6 times x minus 6. See if you can figure it out without writing all the steps down. We're going to do FOIL. We get x squared. The outside terms are negative 6x. Inside terms are positive 6x. And the last term, negative 36. If you add your 2 terms, the like terms together, negative 6 plus 6 is 0, so you're just left with x squared minus 36. So this is the very last one. When you have the same variables or numbers, but there's a plus sign between one and a minus sign between the other, this is the form it's going to take, a squared minus b squared. If you can remember those patterns, it'll save you a lot of time. Here, x plus 2 squared. So I'm going to show you how to do it quickly. Square your first term. Remember, you have 3 terms, okay? Since it's a plus right here, the answer, all 3 terms are going to be positive. So I squared the first term. I'm going to have something in the middle. I'm going to wait on that. Square the last term. 2 squared is 4. To figure out this middle term right here, multiply x times 2. You get 2x. Now you want to double it. So 2x, and then we're going to multiply it by 2. You get 4x. And remember, every one is positive because there's a plus sign between this. Okay, let's look at this one where there's a coefficient in front of our variable. 2x plus 4 squared. There's a plus sign between the two terms, so every sign is going to be positive. You don't have to worry about changing signs. Square your first one, 2x. If that's squared, you get 4x squared. We're going to figure out our middle term. It's going to be positive, plus square your last term, 16. To find this middle term, 2x times 4, you get 8x. But now you want to double it. So you get 16x as your middle term. And that's your answer. What if the symbol is a minus sign? We have our formula when it's a minus b, or x minus 8 in this case. Our answer is going to be a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. These ones up here, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. This is the form. A is just your variable. This 2 right here is just the coefficients, 1 and negative 8. You multiply them together and you double it. And then the b squared is just this last term. So let's see if we can solve it. First, I'm going to square my first term. It's going to be x squared. We'll figure out what the middle term is, but it's going to be negative. We know that. Then my last term is positive. I square the negative 8. Negative 8 times the negative 8 is 64. Now right here to find the middle term, multiply x and negative 8 together. So x times negative 8 equals negative 8x, and we want to double that, so we'll multiply it by 2. Negative 16x is our answer. For this one right here, we're going to use the same formula because it's two terms with a minus sign between it and they squared it. Square your first term, 2x and 2x, you get 4x squared. We'll figure out our middle term in a second. It's always going to be negative, and our last term is positive. Negative 7 times negative 7 is 49. To find the middle term, multiply 2x times negative 7. You get negative 14x. Double that. It's going to be 28x. So I think you guys can figure this out. The last example, x plus 3 times x minus 3. It's not the same form. Right here, it's just two terms, and there's a plus sign between them. Sorry. Here it's two terms with a minus sign between them. Now it's the same numbers and variables except for one parentheses has a plus, one has a negative. We're going to use this formula, a squared minus b squared. This one is actually very simple, simpler than the other two. So for this, it's going to be, our answer is going to be a squared minus b squared. Basically, we're going to square our first term, x and x. Then we're going to square our last term, 3 and negative 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, but it's going to be a negative. So our answer is x squared minus 9. You're really going to want to learn how to do this for when you start learning how to go backwards from here to here. Okay? This right here, 5x plus 4 times 5x plus 4. We're going to be in this form because we have a plus and a minus. So we square the first term, 5x. If that's squared, it's 25x. Square the second term, 4 is 16. We're going to have a negative sign between it, and that's your answer because we're following this form with a negative between it. So these can go so much faster than the ones above it, but really you can do them all pretty quickly as long as you remember that formula and you are able to recognize it.